Hello everybody, I'm Carmen Harra and I'm so excited to do this video because I want to talk to you a little bit about my new book that is called Committed, Finding Love and Loyalty Through the 7 Archetypes. It has been endorsed by John Gray, who wrote Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And he said Committed is a practical manual for anyone seeking to build and maintain a stable relationship. It offers grounded, realistic advice for readers to strengthen their bond with their significant other and get loyalty from the one they love. So the book is about understanding the concept of commitment, understanding the online dating, and also in the second part of the book is a definition of the concept of archetypes. And I came up with defining 7 major archetypes. And it's very significant for you to identify your own archetype. So at the end of the day, you know who is your match based on your archetype, the way you think, the way you act, you know, something that might be genetically inherited in your behavior, and also something that has a lot to do with the way your life was shaped through all your life experiences. I was able to define 7 distinctive archetypes. And the concept of archetype goes back to the time of Plato, 2,000 something years ago. And then Carl Jung took the concept and translated into the concept of archetypes. But the way I made it, I want to make it understandable for all of you. I made a psychological analysis of all the archetypes. So I made it easy for you to actually benefit in your relationships. And it's very significant if you have relationship problem to kind of define who you are, why you act the way you act, and who's your best match. And I'm going to go in depth through the 7 archetypes, but I want to tell you something about commitment. Commitment comes from the Latin word committere, which means you give yourself to another person. And commitment is totally inseparable from a successful relationship. You cannot have one without the other. Often we go in a relationship thinking, well, commitment will come later. He doesn't really want to commit to me, but maybe that's going to happen in a year or 2. Well, guess what? It never happens. So in a relationship without commitment runs the risk of collapsing fairly quickly. So commitment is the glue that keeps 2 people together. So that's why it's so significant to understand what commitment stands for and how can we actually work on our own concept of commitment and try to give our own definition of commitment. Because 2 people might hold different beliefs about commitment. From an early age, we are conditioned towards the notion of commitment. We first learn that this concept comes from our parents and the family and is the starting point in our journey in love. I mean, the reason no 2 people hold identical ideas about commitment is because no 2 people grew up in the same circumstances. So consequently, we have different feelings and opinions. But nowadays, you know, people are more afraid of commitment than ever before. They're more scared to get seriously involved. They're more scared to be attached. They're more scared to get married. We are, and what we are actually experiencing as children will affect our life later on more than we can imagine. So it's significant sometimes to go back in time and revisit what we've been affected by, or what is the imprint that was created during our upbringing. I will tell you a little about my book in a minute and going through the 7 archetypes, but I also want you to understand that the first part of the book re-examine the core beliefs that you hold about commitment. It also helps you liberate yourself from the people and situations and circumstances that no longer serve you. And also it develops an unshakable sense of self-worth. The second part of the book talks about identifying your partner's archetype, his strength, his weaknesses, his mindset, his inclination, and his commitment capacity. It also, the second part of the book, helps you determine your own love archetype. Make your partner commit based on his needs, on his fears, on his desires. And navigate through the world of online dating is also part of this book. Another significant, I think, chapter in this book is helping you understand how to build emotional intimacy. That's so significant in a relationship. There's no emotional intimacy. There is no way a relationship survives the test of time. Very important also, the book touches upon how to mediate external influences that come between you and somebody else who's interfering in your relationship. So the goal of this book is pretty much to help you find and seek the love that you deserve, which should be an authentic, an impassioned love and filled with excitement, so that you experience this extraordinary sense of fulfillment with your partner and try to live a happy life. That's what this is all about. And as I said, when I start talking about the book, I will try to define the 7 archetypes. I'll try to give you a hint of what an archetype is all about, how many archetypes I was able to bring in this book and give you like a very short definition of every one of them. I said that throughout history, you classify people in different groups according to their personalities. And we were asking ourselves why people do the things they do. And this is the basics of psychology. Why does one person lie? Why does another person tell the truth? Why does one person cheat while another person stays faithful? The word archetypes goes back to the Greek word archein, which means original, and typo, which means pattern. So it refers to original patterns of behavior. So in psychology, it's a pattern of thought that is always presented in the human psychic mind and in human intelligence mind. So as I said, this goes back to Plato, and Plato was the one that created the theory of forms. And Carl Jung was inspired by Plato's forms and applied the concept into the human psychology. So Jung believed that universal pattern resides within the depth of the consciousness and surface in forms of beliefs, fears, wishes, and so on. So the theory of archetype can be applied to relationship, no doubt about it. In my practice, I was meeting so many people, and this is what made me write this book. And I'm going to go to an overview of the 7 archetypes, which are the independent, the workaholic, the narcissist, the free spirit, the hopeless romantic, the wounded warrior, and the introvert. There is also the 8th archetype, which is actually called the well-rounded one. And the well-rounded one is actually the ideal archetype. So we all want to become the ideal archetype. We all have a dominant archetype that dictates our personality, but also we have things that intertwine, and an archetype can be influenced by another archetype up to a lesser degree, at a certain degree. So I want to go to independent. The independent struggles with commitment, and he's most reluctant to enter, out of all the archetypes, most reluctant to enter in a relationship because he cherishes his freedom. He wants to be free. The independence is defined by his needs to be on his own. He wants to be himself. He thinks that being with somebody else will take away his cherished freedom. So this is the way, that the independent creates his own path. The second of all is the workaholic, which the workaholic has built his life around his work. But he wants to get both of the two worlds. He wants to be very successful in his career. On the other hand, he also wants to have as amazing family and want a partner that is extraordinary. Now, workaholic will never give up his work for the significant other. So if the other person in his life becomes possessive and wants to kind of chip away that interest in work, that's gonna lead to a separation, to a divorce. The third is the narcissist. Now we've seen what a narcissist can do if he's in a position of power. And one of the things I want everybody to know, that a narcissist will only match a narcissist. But when it's a malignant one, then we have a serious problem. Well, the narcissist is all about his ego, He can be so emotionally superficial. He doesn't care about other people. He wants to always win. He always wants to be in a position of power, and the world is all about him. He can commit to a relationship, as I said, but it has to be to somebody who has the same type of behavior, the same type of thinking, and the same type of action. I'm going to free spirit. Free spirit is someone who, he's free. He has a lot of trouble sticking to commitment because he claims he needs that freedom in order to be himself. The free spirit doesn't know sometimes what he really wants. He would be glad to be in a relationship, sometimes he tries very hard to get into a relationship, but he cannot actually execute. So he has a hard time to put himself together when it comes to being with somebody for good, for real, long terms. The hopeless romantic is the next one. An idealist, somebody who is a dreamer, not a doer. The hopeless romantic wants commitment. He throws himself into romance in a blindly way. And often, he meets the wrong person just because he doesn't even think too much what he's doing. He just wants to be loved and he wants to give love. Because he idealized love, he's not realistic about the relationships he brings into his life. The wounded warrior, I would think of, talking about people in position of power, I would think of Joe Biden, somebody who was very wounded, somebody who went to some kind of a trauma. Like early in life, he probably lost somebody he loved, lost his parents or lost his wife, or went through somebody that was very dramatic, disconnecting him from inside out. But he has a lot of turmoil inside, and as you know, trauma is very hard to heal. But he's somebody that can commit, and he wants to heal. And when he finds somebody, a good partner, he will be able to heal relatively quickly. And the next one is actually the introvert. The introvert struggles with his fear of intimacy and hesitation to relieve what he feels inside. There's a discrepancy because what's shown on the outside and what is kept inside when it comes to the introvert. But to be in a committed relationship, the introvert needs to feel comfortable enough to open up to his partner. And at the very end, there's the well-rounded one, is the portraying the stable partner, the stable relationship. That's the best, the ideal archetype we rarely find, and we all want to get to that point in life. So I hope that I gave you just a hint about the 7 archetypes, including the 8th one. What do they mean? How do they manifest? Try to find out what is your own archetype. And write me an email at carmenharra. Be my friend on Facebook, Carmen Harra, on Instagram at Carmen Harra. Let's connect. Let me help you identify your own archetype and who's your match. The book actually goes in depth in defining who is good for who and trying to guide you and help you so that you can understand the psychology of the people coming into your life and your own psychological patterns of behavior. So I'm Carmen Harra. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. This was all about my book, Committed, Finding Love and Loyalty Through the 7 Archetypes.